Hi there. So I am Jo Chappell and I'm here with Ethna Fitzpatrick. We are chartered physiotherapists and we work from Pilates Physio Cork. And we are picking up where we left off last time talking about pain. We started a conversation, I think it was about a week or so ago, because lots of people had contacted us in these sort of extraordinary times looking for help and advice on how they might manage their flare-ups in pain or their pain issues. And we thought it might be worth just sort of putting some information out there. So that was the motivation behind why we did these talks. So if anybody wants to see the outcome of our first chat, then have a look at that on our YouTube channel. But today, thanks for your time, Ethna, but today we were going to try and talk about the positive things that people can do to try and help manage pain and any painful flare-ups that they may have, because there's actually quite a few things, isn't there? I think just because a lot of physiotherapy clinics are closed down, it doesn't mean that people can't be proactive. It doesn't mean that people can't do things to help manage their symptoms. So we wanted to sort of try and have a bit of a chat about that. I suppose there's loads of things, there's loads of places to go, isn't there? Loads of things that we could start with. One thing that I would perhaps do, or I've been saying to lots of people, I don't know if you would agree with this, Ethna, but one thing that I often say is let's try as best we can to take an objective, sort of common sense approach and just answer a few basic questions. When someone's got an awful lot of pain, when they've had a flare-up, just answering some straightforward questions. Has there actually been an accident? Has there been an injury? Has there been any mechanical episode? Is there any particular trauma? Is there anything new going on? And obviously, if the answer is yes to any of those things, if someone is unwell, if they're feeling systemically unwell, if there's new symptoms, if there's lots of other new things going on and they have pain, then obviously they speak to their doctor, they get help, they don't just sort of try and meditate their way through any acute trauma or any new signs of issues and so on. So I think taking a sort of common sense approach and just asking those fundamental questions to start with is important, isn't it? But I find that quite a lot of the time when you ask those questions, people's responses will be, well, no, I haven't. There hasn't been an accident. There hasn't been an injury. There hasn't been a trauma. There are no other new symptoms. It's my pain, it's back, or it's worse than ever, and it's just so unbearable. And then when we're dealing with that kind of situation, what do we do, Ethna? Where do we go?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to kind of almost say don't panic, and that is definitely easier said than done. But I think, it's inevitable. I think when we live with pain that we're going to have flare-ups, and I know we spoke the last day about kind of all the factors that could be contributing to a kind of a flare-up in these times. So it's to kind of go easy on ourselves again, to kind of say, look, this has happened to me before, most likely. And if it has, I always think it's interesting to really be curious about what helps. What helps your pain? What helped your pain last time? What helped your flare-up settle down? And equally, kind of what doesn't help? What do you feel contributes to it getting worse? Because the more we understand about pain, I think it really helps us kind of have a certain level of control about being able to bring that pain down and how to kind of calm down our systems. So I would always kind of inquire, like, what, does heat help? Hot baths. Some people love ice packs. What kind of movements or positions feel good for your body, or what are you naturally drawn to do? And there's so much, I think, that people already know about what they can easily tell what helps, what doesn't help. And I think writing it down, like, having some sort of a plan so that, if you're going through your flare, straight away you can resource yourself with, okay, well, this helped me last time, and I'm going to start off with these things, and even if it's kind of medication, what helps there? Is it paracetamol, or do I need to go and see my GP for a prescription of something? And really, you know, there is so much we can kind of do to help calm it down. Have you anything kind of extra to add there?
Well, I think that the whole there are so many things to say, aren't there? And often the context and what is going on for people in their lives at that point of time, or the events preceding a flare-up, I think can sometimes be quite important as well. And it's to try and sort of, again, it's easier said than done, but to try and be objective about what may have contributed to this flare-up. So understanding what may have aggravated or eased your symptoms previously is absolutely important. But sometimes the situation might be different. There might be a unique set of circumstances, and perhaps trying to identify what other drivers perhaps might be at play. Because if we talk about things like, there's some really lovely analogies that we can use, and I will often talk about things like your cup of water or something, you know, things that can help to fill your cup up will be kind of all the positive things in your life that you associate that with your own health and well-being and happiness and meaningful activities and meaningful relationships and the things that you enjoy doing in your life. These things that we have going on for us, whether that's a hobby or whether that's sort of a group of friends or whatever particular interest or anything that it might be, they're not flippant. They're actually incredibly important for our overall well-being and health. And maybe known to us or unbeknownst to us, every time we engage in sort of bits and pieces that we enjoy, we're kind of adding to our cup, we're filling our cup up, and we're building up our reserves of sort of feel-good factors and resilience and capability and so on and so forth. And I think what we perhaps need to appreciate is that at times of lots of change, lots of stress, or lots of new things, because sometimes just the unknown and, you know, all of that, not knowing what's going on and lots of new things that are uncertain, you know, at times like this, they can sort of drain our cup a little, and they can take away from our reserves a little, and then, you know, slowly and surely we can sometimes find that we're quite depleted or that the cup is empty, and then we can sort of crash and hit rock bottom. And so sort of being able to look at what else might contribute to the big picture and the context, because we can't avoid life, we can't avoid ups and downs, and we can't avoid we don't live in a perfect world, and we can't constantly just avoid things that we don't like. Yeah. Then that can actually have quite sort of a catastrophic.
Or even avoiding stress, like it's
absolutely
impossible.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in fact, I think sort of the more we try and avoid things, the smaller our world can become, and that can sometimes compound the feelings of stress and fear and anxiety and pain. So we can't avoid the ups and the downs, but it's knowing how to best manage them and navigate them. And so, understanding our aggravating factors and the things that help to ease our symptoms, really important. But it is as well finding time for any sort of movement or activities that we enjoy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, exercise is often the first thing. Again, with something like a change of routine, often like time-wise, we're like, well, I don't have the time for that. Yeah. Or maybe there's been a change, like we don't get our gym classes in, or the pool is closed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's really easy for people to kind of say, okay, well, my exercise has just stopped, or I go for a stroll with the kids for 15 minutes, but you know, the aerobic exercise has stopped, and people kind of say they don't have the time anymore to kind of get any of that in. And I think it's so important to kind of know that, you know, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes or an hour outside getting in our optimal exercise. You know, even if it's just getting 5 or 10 minutes in, like doing some, you know, some exercises on the mat, getting out for kind of a walk, maybe in the evening on your own with your runners on, for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. They don't have to be big chunks. But I think it's all about kind of like, you know, really looking, as you say, resourcing ourselves, but, you know, really looking at kind of how we can get our exercise in during the day.
Do you, this is a personal comment now, and just something that I've observed quite a lot is that when you're dealing with people who are in quite significant pain and they're reporting that, you know, really high intensities and pain and just, they would describe that they are really disabled by their pain. A lot of people will find that a lot of people tend to stay away from exercise. They become quite fearful of movement. They become quite fearful of activity. At this sort of extraordinary time when they may not be able to sort of speak directly in front of a physio or someone like that, what recommendations or advice do you give to people there in terms of exercise, activity and pacing and so on with pain?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people get scared of it. Like, understandably, it's kind of like, I think sometimes there can be this idea that, you know, people kind of push through activities or movements that then can kind of increase their pain levels. And often my advice is to kind of see how it is to just go a little bit slower, or just maybe don't do as much of the walk. What would it be like if they normally do half an hour walk, but at the end that's them kind of, their pain has flared and they're not right for another day after. You know, I'd be kind of saying, well, what would happen if you only did a 15-minute walk or a 20-minute walk? You know, I think like learning to kind of pace something like that is honestly really difficult, but so necessary for us to, rather than maybe waiting for symptoms and going to that point, pushing to that point. What would happen if we stopped just short of that, ideally, you know? So, you know, if 30 minutes increases our pain, I would be saying, well, what would it be like to maybe be doing 15 or 20 minutes for the time being, build on that, and then over time, again, look to increase the minutes on it.
And I think neither of us are saying that if you have pain, if you're experiencing a significant flare-up, I don't think either of us are saying just push on, carry on, crack on, work your way through it. It's really easy. Everything will be sorted in an instant. Neither of us are saying that. But what we are encouraging is that people try and look objectively, if they can. When pain is so subjective, that's very difficult, but try and look objectively at what may have gone on here, what may be driving your pain, what good things have you got going on that you enjoy, that help with your pain, that make you feel better, that you can employ small doses throughout the day. And then, like that, we need movement, we need exercise, we need activity, we need cardiovascular fitness, we need our respiratory fitness, we need our muscular strength, just to stay healthy and just to be functional. So if we stop all exercise through fear avoidance altogether, eventually we're going to be in a much worse situation. But I suppose it's having that clarity of thought to be able to really pick to pieces all the variables that there might be in any type of exercise. So if we just stick with walking for the time being, yes, we can talk about a shorter distance, we can talk about a shorter time, but we can also talk about things like just a slower pace. It might be that some people can go out for the same amount of time or the same distance, but just go a lot slower. But even then, there's more variables than that. What about, you know, a shorter stride length? What about, you know, working with your arms in a slightly different way? You know, I had a lady yesterday whose back pain is off the scale. Every time she goes out, it's not getting any better, but she's always going out with a double buggy. You know, we just talked about different variations and variables, and, you know, we were playing around it through together, and she kind of worked out that maybe somebody else pushing the buggy and her just allowing her arms to swing might be a helpful thing. And it's just, you know, just having that ability to sort of step back and just to ask questions and just to reflect and just to see, well, what else could you do slightly differently? Because just to stop and just to avoid, as much as I would appreciate why somebody does do that, it's not long term perhaps the most helpful thing that people can do, is it? It's trying to look at how you can really spot different variables, and we are work in progress. There are no formulas.
You know, even things like, you know, like housework and bending and lifting and that, it's the same idea, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, so many people are kind of like, you know, it's when I hoover, it's when I unstack the dishwasher, like all these contribute to my pain flaring. it makes my back sore when I bend. It's all about looking at, well, how could you bend in a way that's more comfortable for your body? Is that possible? Could you relax your tummy? Could you try breathing through the movement, bending the knees a different way? Or, you know, there's so many ways that we can do things, as you say, without necessarily avoiding, you know?
And there we come to even, I mean, there's so many different thoughts that are coming from just this conversation. There's actually loads of other things we could say. There's so many myths, and there's so many sort of popular beliefs around how to keep your back healthy and what to do, and, you know, how to breathe, how to bend, should you bend, should you not bend? You know, do you breathe in and out? Like, when do you breathe in and out when you bend? Like, there's so many myths out there that I think sometimes really muddy the waters for people as well. So I think what we might have to do is get together again and have a brainstorming session on how to sort of navigate our way through the fact and the fiction around back pain and pain, all of those kind of things, because there's a lot of quite unhelpful beliefs and misconceptions out there that I think may be shackling some people as well. That again is a very personal comment, but it's something that I feel might be
no, absolutely, no, I think that would be great, Jo.
Okay, so to summarize, how can people help themselves when they are experiencing quite a big flare-up? Any sort of top tips that you would summarize?
I think understanding your pain, resourcing yourself by, you know, looking at your, you know, your well-being, your health, you know, as you say, making sure that your glass is nicely full, or helping to fill it up in other ways. I think, you know, looking at incorporating gentle movement that feels good, whether that is just 5 minutes on the mat or lying down on your bed. And doing some, you know, finding positions where you can relax and breathe deeply and help calm everything down.
Absolutely, I think there's some really lovely sort of breathing techniques and practices that we can do that can be really helpful. We've got a couple of things up on the YouTube channel that might be of interest to people, and you've got some beautiful yoga videos there as well, and just some real basic stretches that I think can be helpful. So I mean, it can be the physical things, can't it? It can be making sure that you get a decent night's sleep. It can be making sure that you take time for yourself to do some sort of exercise or activity. It can be working on relaxing breaths. It can be doing physical things like having a nice long hot shower, or taking that long bath, or giving your back a bit of a gentle rub, or all those bits and pieces. But sort of then also considering things like, you know, are you eating well? Are you eating a good nutritious diet, or are you filling your body full of, you know, fast food? And just because those things won't help either in the bigger picture. Are you staying well hydrated? And are you giving yourself a bit of a break, or are you punishing yourself because now you've got a flare up as well? Is it something else to have to fix? Well, you know, just sort of taking that time to just reflect and give yourself a bit of time, and not just keep on pushing through.
Absolutely.
Loads we can talk about. I'm going to get you back again, my dear, and we're going to have a sorting the fact from the fiction session with pain and back pain. Is that all right?
Very good. Thanks, Jo.
Hopefully that's been helpful for some people, but I've enjoyed it anyway, my dear.
Absolutely.
So thanks very much, Ethna.
Okay, no problem.
Take care. Bye-bye.